Didn't Christianity just copy from earlier religions?
What do you mean?
So many of the ideas and practices found in Christianity can be found in earlier sources. For example, the Golden Rule can be found in some form in Buddhism, the Greek philosophers, Confucius, and so on. Jesus wasn't really saying anything new.
I agree. When he said, "Love your neighbor as yourself," he was not saying anything entirely new. He didn't claim to be saying that for the first time. Instead, he is expressly quoting from the law of Moses. And he says that this one rule sums up the entire moral law.
So why is Jesus held up as such an ethical trailblazer?
It's a common misunderstanding. Jesus did not intend to introduce a novel system of ethics. On the contrary, I think he was trying to strip down the complicated system of rules and regulations that had built up in the religion of the first century Jews. He wanted to get back to basics, if you will. Throughout the Gospels you see Jesus appealing to a moral sense that we already have in our conscience. For example, after giving the famous parable of the Good Samaritan, Jesus asks his listener which one of the men was a neighbor to the man who was robbed. He knows we have the answer already. He doesn't have to tell us himself. Likewise, St. Paul writes that the requirements of God's law are written on the hearts of all men.
So what makes Jesus special, if his system is just the same old, same old?
Well, I think Jesus is rightly praised for very memorable parables that illustrate the Golden Rule. And also for emphasizing some of its most difficult and least popular implications. The idea of loving one's enemies too. And foreigners. And focusing on our own faults instead of our neighbor's faults. He also emphasized a full-blown golden rule which includes positive duties towards the poor, the sick, and the lonely, not just a principle of doing no harm. None of this was entirely new, but Jesus placed a special emphasis on the things we are most likely to overlook.
So is that what all the fuss is about? Jesus is a great motivational speaker who uses other men's ideas?
No, the fuss is not on the ethical rules themselves. The fuss is that the moral law is more comprehensive and tougher to keep than you might think. And that it extends to the intentions of our hearts. The law is about love, not just the correct outward actions. By emphasizing these difficult truths, which we already know, but do not like to dwell upon, Jesus makes painfully clear just how far short of moral perfection we are. This is a serious problem for us, since God is just and God is holy. The heart of the gospel message is how Jesus solves that problem for us, through his life and death.
I've never really understood that part.
Well, it's somewhat mysterious, and it's difficult to cover that topic in a soundbite. I promise I'll come back to it in another video. But if you are looking for something new in Christianity, that is where you will find it, not in the basic ethical teaching.
Okay, fair enough. But I'm still troubled by a wide range of other ideas and practices that have come into Christianity from earlier sources. For example, things like fasting, self-denial, prayer, sacrifice, Christmas trees, pagan holidays, virgin birth, resurrection of the dead, heaven and hell, and so on and so on. So much of it just looks like a copy of other religions. If all of those other religions are false, why should I believe Christianity is true?
You're correct that it would be incredible if 999 religions were completely false and the remaining one true. Christianity is primarily the fulfillment of the Jewish religion, but it is also the fulfillment of what was hinted at all along in all the religions at their best. What was vaguely seen in all of them comes into focus in Christianity, just as God himself comes into focus by becoming a man. So all of these parallels with the rest of the human religious experience are not really a problem. In fact, I would find Christianity harder to believe if the parallels were not there. C.S. Lewis made exactly this point in a wonderful book called God in the Dock.
So are you saying that everything that was copied by Christians was one of the best element of some other religion?
Not exactly. I said all the religions at their best. The timing of Christmas, for example, as a wintertime celebration was a pagan festival tradition adopted and rebranded for Christian purposes. This is by itself perhaps neutral. But the way Christians have managed to corrupt Christmas and other aspects of religion into a commercial enterprise is not an example of religion at its best. But it is something we have copied. A huge chunk of the gospel involves Jesus criticizing the phony, the superficial and the commercial aspects of the first century Jewish religion. But it's really an indictment of those sins in whatever century and in whatever religion they are found, including our own. Always keep in mind that a critic of everything that is wrong with organized religion has a friend in Jesus.
You might even get me to say amen to that.